So let's ask Brad this. Brad, what's more incredulous of a take? Tyvus thinking he can hit an NBA fastball and slider.
Hold on. NBA,
or what G. Bush said last week.
MLB.
In the MLB.
Okay.
Or what G. Bush said last week, and here's the clip.
Okay.
Listen, no disrespect. Bill Russell, what he did, listen, for African Americans and trying to be like living in Boston, I couldn't even imagine that, right? But let's be clear, he is not in the debate for the best player of all time. He's just not. I think you're just trying to be facetious and funny and pick somebody. When people pick Wilt Chamberlain, I'm like, okay, you pick Wilt Chamberlain, he scored 100 points. I could low-key try to see that. But here's the thing. These dudes was playing against Mikey McNuggets.
I think you're overstating.
No, I'm not.
I think what it is he won a lot, but he played for an organization that was the Yankees.
I think the generation before Russell and Wilt, you could make that argument. I think it started to change around the time.
There's two black guys.
No, they weren't the only two black guys.
They were just they were physically so much superior to what was in the league. They changed the way teams built their teams.
Yeah.
And they changed rules.
To me, the 60s is the divide. Anything before the 60s, I don't care about.
If you're the player coach, that's the you gonna tell me. Hey, man was a player coach.
Pete Rose was a player coach much more recently than that.
Frank Robinson did it here.
Listen, that should disqualify you if they let you have two payrolls and you was telling people.
But that was just about being cheap.
Hey, Jay, get out. You out. I'm in.
By the way, whenever you start a sentence with no disrespect, but you're about to disrespect.
Here it comes.
No. Mikey, you want my answer?
Please, I was saving that clip just for you, Brad.
Okay, well, clear the runway, baby.
There you go, dog.
Clear the runway.
How well did you know Bill Russell, by the way?
Just passing and happening.
He think you old as heck.
Yeah, I know, right? So let me get to.
I didn't think he was playing with him. I know he's.
Let me get to my man G.
Yeah.
So G, that's my main man out here, but I'm sorry, G. You making me choke. Bill Russell was a beast.
Okay, yeah, he was.
Just check it, right?
Is he in the debate for the greatest
He
player
has
of all
to
time?
be.
Okay.
The stuff he was doing, right? Now he's not the greatest.
Okay.
No, his point
you
was
have to bring his
he
name.
shouldn't be in the debate.
You have to bring his name up, right?
Okay.
And anybody that played in that era and after who saw it and experienced it, it's amazing to me, right?
Okay.
I hear people all talk all the time about these guys in the league and what they do, right? You ever played one of them? They'll kill you.
Yeah.
They'll kill you.
They'll
kill you.
He smoked me.
They'll kill you, right?
Look at the rebounds.
And here's the other
Look
thing.
at the rebounds
Let me tell you the thing he was.
Crazy.
He was a tough SOB too.
Yeah.
Tough. In a time where, when the Lakers and Celtics got together and they were supposed to be the mortal enemies, right? Wilt goes to the hotel. Let me pick you up so you ain't got to stay in this raggedy hotel. You come stay at my house.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Wilt pick him up and stay at the house with Wilt. Then they drop him back off, right? Because Wilt wasn't going to let him stay in a hotel like that, right? Especially where they wasn't giving him good service. You come to my house. You stay with me.
Wow.
They don't tell you about that, right? And then they would go out there and they would play like they were mortal enemies against one another.
They hated each other.
That's how they did. But you didn't know the backstory that was going on.
I'd never heard that before.
That was
isn't he the ultimate winner in team sports?
Yeah, and let me tell you,
11 championships.
And how
right?
do I know this? When I was playing in Seattle under Bernie Bickerstaff, JB's daddy, right? Guess who the assistant coach was? Casey Jones.
Oh, wow.
So I was there. You could pick Casey's brain. Absolutely. And they'd tell you
That's
things.
like talking to a history book.
They tell you things that were going on that you have no appreciation for because it was not in your purview. You never knew it was going on.
Right.
So Bill Russell, although not the greatest, he in the conversation, not going to be the greatest.
Right.
But you can't have no conversation. You can't have any conversation without Bill Russell being at least mentioned.
Well,
and it's not because they won all those championships with Havlicek and all the rest of it. It's not that. He was the de facto soul of the Boston Celtics at a time where people didn't want him to be the de facto soul of the Boston Celtics.
Exactly right.
Right?
Yeah.
By the way, in 1960, 20% of the players were black. 1960.
Okay.
By 1970, it was 50%.
Mm-hmm.
So
how about that, G? Wilt had to pick up Bill Russell to stay at Wilt's house.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
Well, that's a heartbreaking story to me. It is, but I think I've told it on the show. Larry Doby, who broke the color barrier, obviously, in the American League, there's a famous story that he tells about playing in Washington, and he couldn't stay at the team hotel. So he had to find his own transportation, Brad, to the game. And he called for a cab, and the cab wouldn't pick him up when he got there and found out that he was a black man. So now just put this image in your mind for a second, and then imagine going out and playing a baseball game after this. He had to put on his entire uniform at the hotel, including his spikes, and walk to the stadium because nobody would pick him up.
Oh, listen.
I give y'all that work. Listen, when you talk about historical content, the game of basketball cannot be mentioned without Bill Russell. Just for this, we talk about the color barrier. We talk about that. That's part of it. But when you specifically talk,
you look at the numbers.
I'm looking at the numbers.
I got you.
Yeah, his score. He wasn't a. I don't think he belong. Personally, I think G's right that he doesn't belong in a conversation with Michael and LeBron. I don't think he belongs in that conversation. But certainly, if you talk about the 10 greatest players in the history of the game, he belongs in that conversation. Especially because you think about it, a lot of us people that are young probably think, or somewhat young, think of Dennis Rodman as the greatest rebounder you've ever seen.
Oh, no.
Bill Russell averaged 12 more rebounds per game in his career than Dennis Rodman.
That speaks to the fact that he was such a physical stature,
right?
And the league wasn't littered with 7-footers then.
They say when Chamberlain entered the league in 1960, there were only 4 players in the league that were taller than 6'8", including Wilt at 7'1" and Russell at 6'9".
That's my point.
Also, there was less than 10 teams during most of his career in the league when Russell played. So now there are 28?
Yeah, that's why the Celtics won so many championships because they were the elite organization, but there were so few teams.
So go back to this because I get where you're coming from, right? So I'm not trying to invalidate that, right? That you can have that discussion. Go back to the other thing I was talking about before because I saw a thing on Instagram. A guy laid out a case. Jordan versus LeBron. 14 years versus 20. And what Jordan had racked up versus what LeBron had racked up in 20. It's not even close. It's not even close.
What do you mean?
All the things Jordan had accomplished in 14 years, 6 less years than LeBron. He is dwarfing him.
Dwarfing him in what? Besides championships.
So here, defensive player of the year, MVPs, scoring titles. There was a list of things. It caught my eye.
But LeBron, but MVPs now, it's like there's been LeBron should have won more MVPs than he did. They just voted for other people.
No, let me just tell you something. If you if you were there, right, and saw it, right, because I've seen them both. Right, I've called more stuff for the Cavs, right, than I've seen Jordan. Okay, and I will just
that is crazy.
And I will tell you, and this is no slight against LeBron. It's not. The eye test, it goes one way, right. And then when I saw, and I had said that before, but when I saw the guy,
you said in 14, right?
Yeah, 14, laid it out in 14 seasons, pound for pound. I was like. Whoa!
See, but
whoa!
The accolades, though, again, there was less competition.
But let me give you this.
No, it wasn't. It might have been less competition, but the competition was better.
But let me give you this.
There were,
You do know, like when people bring up the disparity in the years that they played, well, that's not necessarily because it was out of Jordan's hands. You got to look at it. From 92 to 94, he played baseball.
Yeah.
2 seasons there. He went and retired in 97. He came back in 01. That's 4 years right there.
Right.
Obviously, if Michael Jordan is in his last 2 years is averaging 23 points a game and 20 in his last year, obviously he could have played those 4 years from 97 to 2001.
Without question.
Without question. When he left at the peak of his powers at 92, he was averaging 33 a game in 92. He took 2 years off, came back and averaged 27 a game. So as you can see, that was mental fatigue. He
wore down.
He took himself mentally out of the game because he was going through different things in his life. For LeBron, he must get credit for the fact that he did do 20.
I've seen some of the greats, right? I've seen some of the greats and played along against some of the greats, and I've watched some of these greats now because there's some greats now. There has never been one man that I played against or with that I actually just watched him play, right? When you're on the floor. With Jordan, you watched him play. You were there.
You didn't want to miss anything.
You're watching this thing like, this is unbelievable. I mean, I could pull some tapes about my first 2 or 3 years in Chicago. The stuff he was doing was mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. I'll give you one for example. Remember when he did the dunk contest in Seattle? Won the dunk contest in Seattle with the lay-down dunk? Mm-hmm. So after practice one day, he's like this. It's just he and I afterwards. He's like, hey, stay around because I got to get warmed up for this dunk contest. I said, so I'm playing around. I'm like, okay, what are you talking about, right? What are you going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, well, what do you got in your bag? So if you imagine where the NBA basket is, I'm going to just give you this one dunk he did, just off the fly. He was just thinking it up. The basket is here, and then there's about a 2-foot difference between where under the net and the baseline, because there's a space under the baseline, right?
Yep.
ண்ட் stood both feet on the baseline, out of bounds, at the line, facing the basket, which is straight ahead of you, right? It's just 2 feet ahead of you. From a broad jump, not a
No
running
step
start.
into it.
No step into it, just a broad jump.
That's crazy.
Takes the ball
That's crazy.
and does a 360. So you're 360 and out, not up, out and up. Wow. Right? Throws this thing down so hard. I do like that. What is this?
Did he ever do that in a contest?
I'm like,
I don't
what is
remember
this?
that.
No, he's just making the stuff up.
And that was one that didn't even make it.
Yes. I was like,
Hey, now,
oh my God. I was like,
OG,
All right,
I
eye
want to.
test, Bird or Magic?
Magic.
That's magic.
Magic.
Yeah, Magic
Stop
was
playing
good
with
too.
me.
Bird, tight. It's
But
tight.
Bird as a
It's
competitor.
Tight. It's tight. Because Magic and Bird, that's tight. That's the two different beasts, right?
Yeah.
But that was some good basketball them days.
Oh,
that was some good
I-
basketball.
for me, that was my
That was a good
favorite era.
basketball.
I also put them in two different separate categories, right? To me, if you asking me if it was a player, I would say LeBron by a whisker. But the crazy part about it is when you say impact, significance, cultural icon, Michael Jordan is never going to be passed, ever, just because there's an industry. He saved shoes.
They're making a movie on it.
I saw that.
I read the commercial last night.
saw it.
It's
Great.
And
Looks
guess what?
awesome.
And Michael Jordan's so impactful. A bunch of people was in a basement of a very nice house, might I add. Watching TV in the Super Bowl, we all chatting different conversations here.
And a very nice house, you might
Very
add.
nice house, might I add.
Very nice house. Can't confirm.
Spacious.
Can't confirm.
Palatial. It was
Fellatio.
Yeah, it was crazy. The gardener came back later.
I think
He
it has a
said-
helicopter pad in the,
Yeah, it
in
was
the
crazy.
backyard.
But we were sitting there all having our little conversations, and that commercial came
this is
on,
fact.
and everybody shut up. Was
We
like
all
this.
stopped.
Everybody.
I did like this when I was
Even
watching.
Jason's kid, who's 12 years old, who is the biggest, oldest, deepest voiced 12-year-old in the history of America, was like, Michael Jordan, gotta watch.
And we was watching.
like-
all did.
And it
I was
was
like,
just.
what I was like, first I was like, what is this? What is
What
this?
is going on with this?
And
What's-
Ben Affleck plays Phil Knight, which is
yeah.
hysterical.
And I think is Regina
No,
Viola.
Viola Davis.
is
Mrs.
Michael
Jordan.
Jordan's mom.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see that.
That woman.
I'm gonna just tell you though, there are and Mikey, maybe not today. This week, let's see if we can find a thing on Instagram, right? I want to.
Okay, we'll look for it. On the Bill Russell thing.
On the Jordan LeBron thing.
Well, I got
okay.
one more for you. I got one more quickie for you. Patrick Ewing, Shaquille O'Neal,
Not close.
David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon.
Hakeem Olajuwon.
Hakeem and Shaq are in a different level. Than
Yeah, I like
yeah,
Shaq.
yeah.
I think I'm taking Shaq.
Patrick Ewing was pretty damn good, man.
No, I'm not saying.
Yeah.
Patrick was a beast. He just couldn't get over the hump.
Was there ever a better college player than Patrick Ewing?
Shaq.
Lou Alcindor wasn't
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Hey, let me read this stat from Steve,
he was tough.
our coordinating
That
producer.
Jordan-
This
And
is
then,
great.
and then I gotta do what the internet says.
Steve
played
says
Georgetown.
amazingly, LeBron's winning percentage is 65.4%. Jordan's is 65.9%. That's nuts.
crazy.
But
Two
by the way,
elite
one of my
winners.
all-time favorite players also, who we haven't mentioned, who's a Hall of Famer, and I think one of the most underrated players in the NBA, my man Chris Mullin.
The
Mully
lefty.
was good.
He was a
St.
great
John's.
shooter.
Mully was good.
I like him.
He was on the Dream Team. People
I like
don't
him.
remember that.
Mully was